Emily, you look like a dream. Sarah's voice bounced with excitement, her hands fluffing the delicate lace of Emily's wedding dress. The mirror reflected a vision in white, Emily Thompson, 28, glowing with hope, her chestnut curls cascading beneath a shimmering veil. The ocean breeze slipped through the open window of the coastal hotel suite, carrying the promise of forever. Today was the day. 3 years of love with Jake, the charming real estate agent who'd swept her off her feet with a spilled latte and a boyish grin, were about to culminate in vows. But in the corner, Max, her golden retriever, paced restlessly, his paws clicking on the hardwood floor, brown eyes darting toward the door. "Max, buddy, what's got you so jumpy?" Emily laughed, kneeling to ruffle his fur. His whine was low, almost urgent, but she brushed it off. Weddings made everyone nervous, right? Sarah handed her a mimosa, the bubbles fizzing like Emily's heart. "To your fairy tale ending," she toasted, and the bridesmaids, for lifelong friends in soft blue dresses, clinked glasses, giggling about how Jake was probably sweating in his tux right now. Emily sipped, her mind drifting to the proposal 6 months ago, under a sky blazing with stars. Jake had knelt, his voice steady, promising a life of adventure, kids, maybe a beach house. She'd said yes before he finished, her heart shouting louder than her voice. Max had been there too, tail wagging, as if he approved. Or did he? Lately, he'd been off, growling when Jake came near, avoiding his usual fetch games. Emily chalked it up to jealousy. Max was her shadow, her rescue pup who'd chosen her 5 years ago at the shelter, his tiny body leaping into her arms like he knew she needed saving too. The clock ticked closer to the ceremony. Guests were arriving at the beachside venue, their chatter mingling with the crash of waves. Emily's mom, Linda, dabbed her eyes in the front row, whispering to her sister about how Emily deserved this happiness after a childhood shadowed by divorce. Jake's parents, polished and proud, greeted everyone, boasting about their son's big heart. The string quartet strummed a gentle melody, building anticipation. Emily stood with her dad, Tom, outside the venue, her bouquet of white roses trembling slightly in her grip. "You ready, kiddo?" he asked, his voice thick with pride. She nodded, her smile radiant but her stomach fluttering, not just butterflies, but something heavier she couldn't name. "Here we go," Tom said, guiding her toward the aisle. Petals lined the path, leading to Jake at the altar, dashing in his navy tux, his sandy hair catching the sunlight. He flashed a smile, but his fingers fidgeted, tugging at his cufflinks. Emily took her first step, the crowd turning to watch, their gasps soft and admiring. Then, chaos erupted. Max, leashed loosely by Sarah, yanked free with a force that startled everyone. He bolted down the aisle, a golden blur, planting himself squarely in front of Emily, barking louder than she'd ever heard. His hackles were up, his teeth bared, not at her, but at Jake. The crowd froze. "Max, what the heck?" Emily whispered, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. She knelt, reaching for his collar. "Come on, buddy, move." But Max didn't budge. His barks grew sharper, eyes locked on Jake, who laughed nervously. "Hey, boy, easy, too much excitement, huh?" Jake stepped forward, hand outstretched, but Max snapped at it, forcing him back. Gasps rippled through the guests. Emily's dad muttered, "What's gotten into him?" trying to grab Max, but the dog sidestepped, pressing against Emily's dress, nudging her hand with a desperate whine. Sarah rushed over, apologizing. "I'm so sorry, Em, he's never done this." But Emily's heart thudded. Max wasn't just a dog, he was her protector. He'd woken her once when a gas leak filled the apartment, stayed by her side through panic attacks. He knew things. Her eyes flicked to Jake, whose smile had faltered, sweat beading on his forehead. "Let's take a quick pause," the officiant called, his voice calm but uneasy. Attendants moved to grab Max, but he darted toward Jake, sniffing frantically at his tuxedo pocket. His paw swiped, and something small clinked to the ground. Emily's breath caught as she bent down, her fingers closing around a silver necklace, its pendant engraved with, "Forever yours, L." Her stomach dropped. She knew that necklace, not hers, but Lisa's, Jake's ex-girlfriend from years ago. Photos flashed in her mind, Lisa wearing it, laughing in old pictures Jake swore he'd deleted. The crowd hushed, sensing the shift. Jake's face drained of color. It's not what you think," he stammered, his voice cracking. "Let me explain." "Explain what?" Emily's voice was a whisper, then a shout. "Whose is this, Jake?" She held up the necklace, her hand shaking. The guests leaned forward, whispers buzzing like static. Jake opened his mouth, but no words came. His eyes darted to the exit, guilt written in every line of his face. Emily's mind raced back, late nights he blamed on work, hushed phone calls he brushed off, the way Max growled when Jake entered a room. How had she missed it? Her dad stepped closer, his arm around her, but Max stayed glued to her side, his warmth grounding her as the world spun. I didn't mean for this," Jake finally said, his voice barely audible. "It was a mistake, Emily. Lisa and it just happened." The confession hit like a slap. Gasps erupted, Emily's mom stood, her face pale with fury. Jake's parents looked horrified, mouthing apologies. Emily's vision blurred with tears, but her voice was steel. "When, Jake? How long?" He swallowed hard, the truth spilling out in front of everyone. 6 months. It started at a conference. I was going to end it after the wedding, I swear. 6 months. Half their engagement, he'd been with Lisa, the glamorous ex who'd always lingered in old stories, the one he swore was history. Emily's knees buckled, but Max pressed against her, his fur soft against her trembling hands. She ripped off her veil, the fabric catching in her hair as she threw it to the ground. "You lied to me. Every day, you lied." Her voice broke, but her resolve didn't. The crowd was silent, some guests crying, others glaring at Jake. Sarah rushed to her side, whispering, "You don't deserve this." But it was Max who anchored her, his steady gaze saying what words couldn't, "I've got you." Emily turned to the officiant. "There's no wedding today." Her words were final, cutting through the air. She walked out, Max trotting beside her, his leash trailing in the sand. Jake called after her, "Emily, please," but she didn't look back. In the parking lot, she collapsed against her car, sobs shaking her. Max climbed into her lap, licking her tear-streaked face, his warmth a reminder of the one love that hadn't betrayed her. Sarah caught up, hugging her tightly. Max knew, he's your guardian angel. Emily nodded, burying her face in Max's fur. "He saved me," she whispered. The ocean roared in the distance, mirroring her pain but also her strength. She wasn't just walking away from a wedding, she was walking toward truth, led by the dog who loved her enough to stop her from a lifetime of lies. As she drove off, Emily's car hummed along the coastal road, the ocean's roar fading behind her as she gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white. Max sat shotgun, his golden fur catching the late afternoon sun, his head resting on her lap like a silent promise, "You're not alone." Tears stung her eyes, but they weren't just from Jake's betrayal, there was a fire in her chest, a mix of rage and relief. The silver necklace, engraved with Lisa's initial, lay discarded on the dashboard, glinting like a taunt. She'd left the wedding in chaos, guests whispering, Jake's pleas echoing, but Max's steady presence kept her grounded. Her phone buzzed, Jake's name flashing again, but she silenced it, her heart pounding with a new resolve. This wasn't the end, it was a beginning, and she'd write it on her terms, with her loyal dog by her side. Back at the house she'd shared with Jake, Emily tore through closets, stuffing his clothes into boxes. Every shirt, every watch, screamed lies, late nights he'd called, client meetings, cologne she now realized wasn't for her. Max followed her, tail low, sensing her storm. When Jake showed up, banging on the door, his voice cracked with desperation. Please, it was a stupid mistake. Lisa's nothing compared to you. Max growled, planting himself between them, his stance fierce. Emily opened the door just enough to meet his eyes, red-rimmed and pleading. You chose her for 6 months, Jake. You don't get to choose me now. Max's low snarl punctuated her words. She shoved a box into his arms and slammed the door, her breath shaky but her spine straight. Max nuzzled her hand, his warmth pulling her back from the edge, days blurred into a haze of grief. Emily called in sick, her graphic design projects untouched on her desk. She curled up on the couch, Max sprawled across her, his steady breathing a lifeline. Ice cream cartons piled up as she scrolled through old texts, searching for clues she'd missed, Jake's vague excuses, his work trips that never added up. Her mom, Linda, showed up daily, arms full of casseroles and wisdom. Life's funny, sweetheart, she said, stroking Max's ears. Sometimes it takes a dog to show us what humans hide. Emily nodded, her throat tight. Max had seen Jake's truth when she was blinded by love, his barks at the altar a louder vow than Jake's ever were. Sarah rallied the troops, dragging Emily to a girls' night at their favorite beachside cafe. Her friends, Clara, Mia, and Jen, shared their own stories of heartbreak over margaritas, their laughter a bomb. My cat hissed at my ex before he ghosted me, Clara said, raising her glass. To Max, the real MVP. Emily managed a smile, Max snoozing under the table, his paw on her foot. For the first time, she felt less broken, surrounded by love that didn't lie. Max stirred, chasing a seagull in the sand, his joy infectious. He's always pulling me forward, Emily said, her voice soft but stronger. Nights alone brought reflection. Emily remembered adopting Max, a scrawny pup in a shelter cage, his eyes locking onto hers like he saw her soul. He'd been her rock through a brutal breakup before Jake, waking her with sloppy kisses, dragging her on walks when depression pinned her down. Now, he was doing it again. One evening, sorting through unopened wedding gifts, she found a photo of her and Max on the beach, his grin wide, her laugh real. Jake's photos, tucked in a drawer, showed forced smiles, his eyes distant. She tossed them in the trash, Max watching like he approved. An idea sparked, she opened her laptop and started typing, pouring her story into a blog post. My dog saved me from a cheater. She hit publish, anonymous for now, her heart racing. The post went viral overnight. Comments flooded in, Max is a legend. My dog did the same. Emboldened, Emily filmed a YouTube video, Max sprawled beside her as she shared how his instincts stopped her wedding. Her voice shook but grew steady, the views climbing, 10,000, then 100,000. Subscribers poured in, drawn to her raw honesty and Max's charm. She posted more, mixing heartfelt talks with clips of Max chasing waves or stealing socks, each video a step toward healing. Pet brands reached out, offering sponsorships, and her channel, Lessons from Max, became a beacon for those burned by love but lifted by loyalty. Emily leaned into her new life. She joined yoga classes by the sea, Max sprawled on a towel nearby, his antics, chasing crabs, flopping in the sand, making her laugh. She picked up painting, her canvases filled with golden fur and soulful eyes, each stroke reclaiming her joy. Jake's calls dwindled, his last attempt a bouquet with a note. I ended it with Lisa. I'm sorry. Emily donated the flowers to a hospital, Max sniffing them suspiciously. Good call, buddy, she said, scratching his ears. She was done with apologies that changed nothing. One stormy night, thunder rattled the windows, and Max, usually fearless, whimpered. Emily pulled him close, whispering, "We've got this." Holding him, she realized she wasn't just surviving, she was thriving, her strength mirroring his. At a local animal shelter fundraiser, she volunteered, Max prancing beside her as kids petted him. There, she met Alex, a veterinarian with kind eyes and a quiet warmth. He knelt to greet Max, who wagged his tail like they were old friends. He's a hero, Alex said, smiling, when Emily shared the wedding story. Their chat flowed, dogs, loss, dreams, his own story of losing his wife to cancer 2 years ago tugging at her heart. Alex was different. No grand gestures, just steady care, bringing her coffee during shelter shifts, listening when she spoke of her fears. Max adored him, bounding to greet him, a stark contrast to his growls at Jake. Emily hesitated, her trust bruised, but Max's approval nudged her forward. Dates followed, picnics with Max and Alex's rescue lab, Bella, romping in the waves, late-night talks about second chances. Alex never pushed, his patience a quiet strength. One night, under a starlit sky, he took her hand. "Emily, you and Max, you're proof life doesn't give up on us. I want to be part of your story, if you'll let me." Her heart fluttered, not with fear, but hope. She leaned in, their kiss soft, Max barking like a cheerleader. Months later, Emily stood on the same beach, this time in a simple sundress, no veil, just Max with a ring tied to his collar. Alex, in a linen shirt, vowed to love her honestly, his eyes never leaving hers. Friends and family, smaller this time, truer, cheered as Max trotted proudly, no growls, only joy. Emily knelt, whispering, "You led me here, buddy." Her channel soared, millions watching, how my dog found my true love, her story of betrayal turned triumph resonating worldwide. Comments read, "Max is my hero. This gives me hope." As she danced with Alex, Max at their feet, Emily knew, love, the kind that didn't lie, came from a dog's heart and a man who earned her trust. The ocean sang, and she was whole.